Hi, I'm Dr. Cerro, your professor for this class, and I want to talk with you a bit about APA style for citations and references. The American Psychological Association, or APA, publishes rules so all students and professionals in the field of psychology can adhere to a similar style of writing. Learning how to properly use APA style is one of the requirements of being a student of psychology. But the terminology used to reference citations and references can be confusing, so I will consistently refer to citations as the abbreviated information that gets inserted in the text of a document, and references as the complete information that gets listed at the end of a document in the reference list. Note that by including citations in your writing, you are building evidence for whatever you're writing about by standing on the shoulders of others who have previously published on a similar topic, which is a good thing. By conveying the information in your own words, or paraphrasing, which is strongly recommended, you do not remove the requirement for citing where the information originally came from. The only difference is that you do not need to provide the page number or use quotation marks to identify a direct quotation. So to be clear, putting information into your own words is a good thing, but it does not negate the requirement for citation. And every time you cite in text, you must include the full reference at the end of your writing. In fact, if you fail to include citations and references while writing about information you found somewhere else, intentionally or unintentionally, that fulfills UMGC's definition of plagiarism. The desire to avoid allegations of plagiarism is the main reason probably every professor you've ever had requires you to complete a plagiarism tutorial at the beginning of class. Unfortunately, even with that tutorial, many students still seem to be confused about these requirements, so please let me know if it's not crystal clear to you. I created a 2-page job aid that summarizes all the APA-style rules students need to use for citations and references based on the 7th edition of the Concise Guide to APA Style. This job aid is located in the Week 1 content area. You're not required to use this job aid, especially if you have another resource you're more comfortable using, but I like having all the applicable rules in one concise space, so I'm sharing my summary with you. There are also more complete resources located in our classroom under Content, Course Resources, Writing Resources. Here you'll find a link to UMGC's full APA-style resource and an example of an APA-style paper that demonstrates the proper use of citations and references for information in a research paper, just like the assignments you'll be doing in our class. You should also use APA style as much as possible for citations and references in our discussions, but you don't have to double space or use hanging indentations for references, as our Leo classroom makes this kind of formatting difficult to do. Formatting in APA style may be easier if you realize that citations have just 2 elements and references include 4 elements. Citations consist of the author's last name or names and the year their information was published. References consist of the author's names, date of publication, the document's title, and source. APA-style rules explain how to format each of these elements in order to achieve a standard appearance, which ultimately makes finding and sharing information easier to do. It's important that you get familiar with the full list of APA-style rules, but I'm not going to cover them all here, since there are many resources that already do this well. For the rest of this video, I'm just going to point out a few rules that have been challenging to my previous students. Note that UMGC migrated to the 7th edition of APA Style in the fall of 2020. Not much change from the previous edition, but there are a few rules that students continue to struggle with, so I'm going to point them out first. Citations that include more than 2 authors use the first author's name followed by et al. For every citation, even the first time. URLs and references are no longer preceded by retrieved from, unless they require a date, which is rare. It only happens for things that don't have publication dates, like wikis. So if you have a publication date to include as the second element in your reference, you should not include a retrieved by date or the words retrieved from before the URL. Publisher location information is no longer included for book references. You still include the publisher's name, but no longer include their location. And student papers no longer include running heads on the title page or anywhere else. In addition to those changes, here are some other common mistakes. You must use quotation marks and include page numbers or some kind of location information for direct quote citations. If the document doesn't include page numbers, you can use the first few words from the section label or a paragraph number where the quotation is located. If you paraphrased, you should not include location information in the citation. When you write your title on the title page for a paper you've actually written, you will use title case capitalization, which means you capitalize all but minor words. But when you create reference lists, the titles for journal articles, books, and chapters use sentence case capitalization. That means you only capitalize the first word of the title, subtitle, and any proper nouns. I know this is a weird one. It's my least favorite of all the APA rules. Students often fail to verify one-to-one correspondence between the citation that occurs in text and the reference that occurs in the reference list. That means if you cite in the text, you must include it in the reference list. And if it's in the reference list, it must be cited in the text. I literally check this, so you should too. I hope that quick review helps you avoid mistakes that others have made in the past. As always, please let me know if you have any questions.